Sophia. Thank you for joining me. You asked me if I know what you do, and I kind of said, well, it's something around styling for women.
Yeah.
My audience knows that I don't dig deep into my guess. You drove. It's like a 20 minute. No, yeah, 20 minutes drive here.
Yeah, there or thereabouts.
So I appreciate that. There's a gift at the end of the podcast for you, just as a reward. And you didn't knew about that.
No, I didn't know about that.
Should we start with a quick introduction? Maybe a couple of words of what is it that you do currently, your business, and then we'll get into how you got into this and everything else.
Yeah. So I am a sustainable stylist. I empower women to dress for success sustainably. And you're probably thinking, what on earth is that?
That was my first question.
Yeah. So it's really getting women to feel amazing in what they wear that is already in circulation. So it could be a case of, you just don't know what to wear within your wardrobe. I help inspire and empower you to really take your style and amplify it so it can not only make you feel amazing, but it can also open lots of doors for you, because when the way that we feel in our clothes has such a huge impact on our lives and the way that we feel.
So kind of like renewing your wardrobe without renewing your wardrobe.
Yeah. And renewing
That's
your
awesome.
mindset as well,
Right.
because a lot of us, there's so many things that stop us, but one of the main things is our mindset and how we see ourselves, and the on cycle of things that go on in our minds. I'm too big, I'm too thin, I'm too old, I'm too this. And I really help empower women to let go of that treadmill of thought and really step into your own and love the woman that you are.
My follow-up question is, why specifically women? Like, why not also men, dudes?
Yeah, no, and I get that all the time from many men. The thing is that I started my business because of some really bad trauma that I went through. And I can empathize fully with what women go through different chapters of our lives, whether it's hormonal, monthly, whether it's menopause, all of these things, childbirth, all of these things change us as women. And I've lived through a lot of it. I know what happens to our bodies, and therefore I can help women going through some of those trickier stages in their lives or different chapters in their lives, where with men I'm not there. I can't. Everything that I do is from a really passionate and thought out place, where with men I don't get the same enthusiasm or the same passion, and I think that we should do things from that point of view.
Right. So it's that relatability factor
Absolutely.
as well. I completely agree, and it's in general. I think this is more emphasized than some of my other examples, because you have your own experiences and lived through certain things, so you probably can help women more than men.
Yeah.
Which you haven't lived in one skin. Well, maybe in a different life, I don't know.
Not yet.
But it's the same. I feel that it's the same for me. Every single time I've tried to do something that I wasn't passionate about or cared deeply about, and do it just for the money, in a sense. I've done a sloppy job, or I just gave up after a very short period of time. So I understand that, and I think that's a very wise choice, because I think we also sometimes give on to pressure.
Yes.
So like if you're doing something that's really good and you're passionate about it and you love it, and you start getting requests of, but my husband needs this,
and the amount of times I get that when I work with my clients and I get in their home, they're like, can you do my husband? And I'm like, no. And they're like, but we'll pay and all of this. And I'm like, no, because to me, it's not just about the money. It's really, I want to empower women, and that's where that is where my expertise or my, what is it called? They call it something of genius. My point of genius, it's called a proper saying, but I've forgotten what it's called. But yeah, that is where my lane is, and there's somebody else that can do men, so you need to go with them. But I think that focusing on something that you're good at is the best way, and that you're passionate at.
Yeah, and it's a mistake that a lot of people do, just kind of like giving on to the pressures of, or thinking of, well, actually this might be an opportunity, and then realize, well, I went down a path that I'm not happy with.
Yeah, absolutely.
How does it work, right? So maybe tell me a bit about the process. So someone,
Okay.
and maybe let's start from the most common challenge that your customers come knocking at your door with. Like, what is I'm not happy in my own body, clothes. I'm not happy with the style. I don't identify with it. What are some of the most common challenges?
The most common one is weight. As women, our weight fluctuates depending on whatever we've got going on in our lives. I had, and I still do, have a huge influx of women that come to me because their bodies changed over COVID. And the things that they used to wear, or it's the case of the things that they used to wear, they're now not wearing in the office because their bodies have changed, but they don't know how to dress now in the office. Or women that want new brand identity within their brands and things like that, because all of that really matters. So it is a combination of quite a few things, but primarily the underlining factor is about weight and how they feel and how they see their body. And the way that I work is that we're not going to, I'm not going to make you look 10 years younger. But what I can do, I'm sorry, but what I can do is get you to love the woman that is looking back at you in the mirror. And all of that doesn't happen overnight. Again, I don't have a magic wand, unfortunately, but it's a process that we go through that really helps you to get a new pathway in all the conditioning that we've had throughout all of our lives, that, you've got to be a size 8 to be beautiful, or you've got to be a certain weight to wear certain things, but just for you to take your power back and to feel confident and comfortable in your own skin. So I really work with women about mindset. A lot of my work's to do with mindset, how you see yourself and all of that. And then it's really you taking the power back in. What do you love? Not what your husband loves you in, not what Auntie Sandra that's always seen you in and loves you in, but really what you love. Because a lot of the times as well that lots of people don't know.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you want to ask me what I love? What I just love the things that are on trend or what everyone else is wearing. And it's so common, yet you look like everybody else. You are not authentically yourself. You are not aligned to wearing your values. It's that whole thing of, I get so many women like, I'm all up for women's rights and I'm all this, I'm all this. But I'm like, but if you're saying that, but you're then going to shop from brands or people that are paying their workers like 3p per item, and those people are, majority of them are women, you're not wearing your values. So it's really it's so much more than just putting somebody in a lovely frock. It is so much bigger than that. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, is because it's the whole full circle, because it's not just about you that I work with. It's also about how you then go on to wear your values and where you vote with your money, so to speak. And with that being said, anything that you've got in your wardrobe that is not right for you, that doesn't align with your values or the woman that you want to be, I help you sell it on in pop-up shops or donate it to women's shelters or the homeless. So it's a really circular of goodness, I like to call it.
Well, and this is one of the things that I was assuming that's happening, because it's more than, as you say, just, hey, chuck this on and voila, magically now you feel better about yourself, right? So I suppose you have a significantly decent, if not lengthy, process of getting to the core of that individual's individuality and likings and mindset, and figuring out where they want to be and working with them. So it's a mindset exercise, not just here's the clothes that will work for you.
The clothes are the cherry on the top. It's really about it's so funny. This morning I had a connection call, because that's where it all starts, with a connection call. And I offer my connection calls totally free, because there's nothing more exposing and vulnerable than a stranger talking to you about your body, your weight, your wardrobe, your clothes, all of these things. And I just think that you need to have that lovely connection with somebody before you part with your money. So I think so I always offer that for free. And it's funny, I had a connection call with a lady this morning, and she was like, I cannot believe I've never thought to ask myself these questions. So initially I have a questionnaire that I send out before the connection call. And she was like, it enlightened me so much, just giving myself the time to ask myself these questions. How do I really feel? Like, what are my favourite features of my body? So many people don't even know that. So how can you dress your body in things that you love and that make you feel good if you don't even know what you love about your body? You know, it's so disjointed.
Do people find it hard to answer that question?
Absolutely. That's why I caveat it and say, if you cannot think of it, what would your best friend say about you? And that helps sometimes. But sometimes you get people that put, I don't know. Yeah. And that's really sad. It's really sad. So I think that for me, it's about the whole journey. It's not just about the end result. It's about helping them to feel that, okay, so I put on this form that I really love my legs. What can I wear that makes my legs, show off my legs a bit more, or, show off my eyes? It doesn't have to be all like, I had a lady that said that I really like my dimples when I smile. And I was like, that is gorgeous. So maybe smiling more is going to be huge for you, because you're going to be able to see that more. Yeah. And it's all these little things that we take for granted.
That's awesome. I'm curious, how much time does it usually take, this journey with a customer, to a point where they're like, you've massively helped me. I feel more confident in myself and my wardrobe and how I present myself to the world. Like, how much time does that process usually take?
It's from the connection call to even the aftercare. It's probably about 10 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
10 weeks.
Yeah. But it's not 10 weeks of me like at you or anything like that.
Yeah.
The day that we spend together, so we have the connection call, we have a bit of back and forth for me to create you a mood board, to have your like style as you want it. So you sort of have a visual aspect of exactly what you want, and how you want to feel in your clothes. What textures do you like? What colours do you like? All of that kind of thing. So yeah, that's a bit of like maybe a 2-week process in between there. And then on the day I come to your house for up to about 6 hours, depending on how big your wardrobe is. And then after that, then we have the aftercare that's about 8 weeks after that. And the aftercare is more so we can go through anything that, we might have missed, or any add-ons that you might need, or anything that you've forgotten from the day. All of that you have, I call it stylist in your pocket, where you can, if something comes up, let's say, that we didn't address on the day, you've got that time to mull it over, and you've got me for that time. And, for me personally, that time is really sacred for my clients, because I really want to make sure that you're okay moving forward to put everything that we put into practice.
Oh, yeah, because, even if you... This is one of the things that some service providers don't understand. Even if you don't care about your customer success post your service offering, you should care, because that might come back to bite you, right? Yeah. So like, I've seen so many examples of, because I'm coming from the software world, of consultancies and agencies coming in, doing a bunch of work, and then not picking up the phone call after the project is over. and not being employed ever with that customer or that customer's network because of that.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And do you know what? That took me a long time to grasp myself. I'm not going to sit here and say that I've always done it. It is something that I've been doing for the last 2 and a bit years. But at the start, I was exactly that person. I didn't do the follow-ups. I just had them, and then I was like, okay, bye. And that was it. And that's my gold, you know. They've had me. They're my point of my marketing, all of that stuff. And also, I'm very much, even my first ever client, I'm still very close with her to this day, because you grow very fond of these people. And for me, I'm just like, I just want to see them really succeed, and I love to know what's happening.
I feel like you're becoming their BFF for a period, right? So
Absolutely. Oh, there's some that we're like absolutely great friends. Like to this day, we go out for dinners. Our kids have met. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel that I would be in the same boat with you, right? If you would have been styling then, because I think I'm also a bit of, as I mentioned, I'm a bit of polar opposite to Nikki. Like I care quite a lot about my image, my public image. I want to dress up. I want to, when I get compliments of, oh, I like that shirt. Oh, I like this, that. It makes me feel really good.
Yeah.
And it's not because I need that validation from people. It's because it adds to the trust in a sense in me, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I like this. I'm putting this together. Oh, I put an effort into figuring out this thing or this wardrobe or this whatever style. Okay, yeah, that works.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's like the cherry on the top.
Yeah,
I'm always
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
It gives you that final, like, yeah, I know.
Because you also mentioned earlier about the fact that a lot of your customers or part of your customers, the original wardrobe is, stuff that they see on TV or styles or this or that. And I used to do that quite a lot when I was younger, but I don't know. Nowadays, I feel like I'm 37. So when I go into a shop or when I go looking for something new, it's just something that strikes me about, a t-shirt or something like that. So if I try it on and I like how I feel wearing that, I get it.
Yeah.
Right. And as a testament to that, I was talking to Nikki the other day because I just got my hair dyed blonde, and she was
What
like,
colour was it? But it was brown, wasn't it?
yeah. And she was like, well, probably middle age drama. And she was like, oh, you need to change your wardrobe now because your wardrobe is a bit too serious for the hair. And I'm like, hell no, I'm not just going to, because, all the dyed blondes out there, dudes, wear pink t-shirts. And so I do have a couple of pink t-shirts, but I like my clothing.
Yeah.
And if I like it, doesn't really matter if someone says, well, that hairdo with that outfit doesn't work. No, I like it. I feel good in it.
And that is what it's all about. And I love that we need more of that, because not many people see it from that point of view. They're like, oh, what are other people going to think? That's what stops them from wearing the things that they love and enjoy wearing, is other people's opinion or comparison. That's not what everybody else is wearing, so I couldn't, no one else is dyeing their hair blonde, so I won't do the thing. And I'm just like, if it makes you feel authentically you and you love it, do it. Because it's gonna hit differently.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, you hit the nail on the head earlier with the cherry on top. It's, for me, is if like I feel good with something, if someone validates it, I'm like, yeah, oh, that's awesome. If someone says, oh, that doesn't work really well, I'm like, so what? I like it.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm the primary stakeholder
Yeah.
in this situation.
I love that. Absolutely. Absolutely. And most of the time we give our power away to other people.
Yeah.
Like they've got the rights, like, they bought my wardrobe, so I need to adhere to what they say. And it doesn't work like that.
The going back to kind of like follow-ups and such, in a way I also understand it, because I used to do consultancy a while back, and freelancing and such, and the most painful thing is when someone pays you for a service, for a project, and the project is done, but yet they keep on coming and requiring more of your time, unpaid, just because, oh, let's polish this, oh, can we polish this, oh, can we do this, and that's time consuming and frustrating. So in a way, yes, but I like the fact that you're actually charging, right? So like in your packages, right? So I'm gonna put this together, and then you have a period of calls, like what would you call it, stylist on
Stylist in your pocket.
stylist in your pocket. I love that. So I feel that you found the kind of like recipe there.
The sweet spot, because it's also the different packages that I've got different packages, and only 2 of them have that. So if you know that you're that kind of person that needs that, we can tailor make and have that as well. So for me, it's bespoke to what your needs are. You don't have to go for it if you don't need it, but it's definitely there if you do.
You mentioned about the fact that you're still good friends with your first customer. Do you remember that first service that you provided? When was that? How long ago was that?
So it was in November. It was in November before COVID. It was my first ever client, in person. I say client. I'd had one before, but they didn't really count. This is my first official client
as a business.
Not just playing shops, basically. And I remember it like it was yesterday, because I was so nervous. I was so nervous, actually. I forgot to take before photos of the wardrobe. And that's something that I always do. And I was just like, oh my gosh, the imposter syndrome kicked in hard. I was like, am I doing a good enough job? I kept on questioning myself. So many things were going on in my head throughout the whole session. And I don't think I let on that so many things were going on in my head, because she had an amazing experience. To this day, she says that whole experience was life-changing.
I was gonna ask, that would have been my question, whether you feel like that had an impact on your output and the basically how you worked with the customer, because and I think more people need to hear this. We're all so stressed. Like, even when I started and done my first podcast, it was a year ago, right?
Yeah.
And I've done all my podcasts in person, so this was a new experience for me. I've done stuff online, content and such, and I was so stressed about it, and I just thought that I should probably throw away that first podcast and never publish it. But the reality is that people don't really, that's the baseline, right?
Yeah.
You're starting there.
Yeah.
Your first customer will have a great experience anyways, because you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right? And then from then onwards, you can only go upwards, right?
Absolutely.
Because we're all our biggest critics, right? So, and then I've kind of like stumbled here in that. The customer has no idea, right?
Yeah.
But I know, so next time I need to do better.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've evolved your style of working with customers over the years?
Oh, goodness me. I've evolved from last year. And I think that being a business owner, that is, if you don't have that evolution, then your business is not going to grow. And I do so much. I'm so hot on my feedback, whether it's an event that I've done, whether it's whatever, I always want feedback because that's the only way that I can grow. And there was things that she was just so lovely in her feedback, but there was still things that I knew that I could have done better on. So for me, it was like analysing myself, not from a point of criticism, but where I could really amplify my message better, you know, my aftercare, so many things have changed. Every year I look at how my business model, like my whole transaction with my clients, to see how I can tweak it, make it better, and make it time efficient for me as well, you know, because time is our greatest asset. And I want to make sure that I'm doing the right steps to move my business forward, for sure.
You're mentioning that before this first official client,
Yeah.
right? You've done a bit of work before that. How did you get into this? How have you always been interested in style, in personal styling, or how did you get to this business?
Well, how long have you got?
We have quite a bit, yeah.
So I've always been into fashion. Fashion was always part of my upbringing. I've always been into it, but it sort of took a bit of a crazy turn. But let me start from the beginning. So I'm from a huge family, one of 10, 34 or 36 is it now? I think it's 34 nieces and nephews. So huge family. I grew up in a household that was chaotic, like crazy chaotic. And when I was about 9 or 10, I shared a bedroom with two of my sisters, and there was this understairs cupboard that was just like a junk cupboard. We all have one, right? Just full of all this stuff, the Hoover, all this stuff. And I was just like, I'm going to gut it out. I'm going to gut it out and make it my own place. So I did just that. I gutted it out, painted it with some old paint that I found in there, and made it into my own wall.
How old were you?
About 9 or 10.
9.
Yeah. And I gutted it and I painted it. I put all Spice Girls posters up.
Of course.
And Boyzone, you know, all the things. NSYNC. And really made it my little haven. And I moved all my clothes, everything I owned, into this little understairs cupboard. And I placed all my clothes neatly in colour order, hooked them up. So I literally got nails and I was just banging them into the wall, into the pure concrete wall. And just hung up all my clothes all nicely, got a little rack for my shoes, and just made it all really nice. All my accessories all laid out beautifully. And I kid you not, this place was like my heaven. Like, I go in there and I just felt amazing. It was like my place.
You made it. You built it.
I made it, yeah. And it was funny because I always talk about this story, and I think that's when the seed was sown for me to bring me to what I do today, because that feeling of having that space just for me where I could see everything I've got, I didn't have to look here, there and everywhere for my stuff. It was just made me so much more happier. And then fast forward to, and I didn't have hand-me-downs. I had like fourth-me-downs because I was like one of the youngest.
Right.
So it just trickled down to me eventually.
How many siblings do you have?
There's 10 of us.
Oh, 10 siblings.
Yeah, so there's 10 of us. There's 9 of us, and I'm the 10th. And I've got 2 brothers and the rest are girls.
Right. I got it. Because initially I thought that when you said 10, I thought that your parents, for some reason, like there was 10 in the family, and then nieces and
no.
So it was 10.
Just siblings.
Your siblings, yeah.
So it's a bit crazy. And then, I had loads of hand-me-downs. We were huge families. So it's car boot sales, charity shops. That's where we got our clothes from. And then when I started working, I was like, well, I'm not going to have any of that. I'm going to go and buy all the latest stuff and be like my friends. So fast fashion was just a magnet to me, because I was getting hardly paid anything working in retail. So it was just all going straight back out. And I was just buying everything and anything so I could fit in and be like my friends that could afford all these nice things. And for a long time, I didn't know what I really loved. And this goes back to exactly what I do now. I want you to love what you really love and do that, instead of being on this treadmill of, well, that's what everyone else is wearing, so that's what
Or
I'm wearing.
that's what makes money. That's
Yeah, absolutely. So so for years and years I just wore the things because that's what everyone else was wearing. I tried to be a bit quirky here and there, and it might not have landed well, so I just
What
went
does
back
that mean?
to well, like, oh gosh, I tried lots of things. I had my hair every color you could possibly imagine, just
And
to
by
try.
landed well, what do you mean by that? You didn't like it, or
No, just like comments that I would get from other people
oh, so you're at a stage where you cared
about other people,
validation
and
and
this
stuff.
is it. And this is it. And for a long time, I just wanted to fit in. At this time, there wasn't that many people that looked like me. Where I grew up, there was literally, when I came to England when I was 6, it was me, my cousins and another family were mainly the only black people around my area.
So you're in a white neighborhood or
A
something
white
like
neighborhood. So fitting in was crucial. I used to have my hair braided and kids would call me Medusa at school. This is the kind of place where I used to, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, how long was this? What was it?
So I came here when I was 6. So, and now I'm 38. So maths was not my thing. So
So you're 38.
I'm 38.
So
I
you're
came here when
the same age as me. So
Yeah.
this was like in the 90s
yeah.
that you were growing up, and you're getting this kind of
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you think things have improved since then? Because I don't know. I don't know if I should blame it on the, well, it was 90s and people, and especially kids in schools and so on, were a bit more rough, unpolished, and uneducated.
100% uneducated. And that's what it was, because there wasn't many people that looked like me. So they were like, we don't know where to place you, kind of thing.
Right.
And so for me, I just had to try and fit in anywhere possible. And for me, that came for fashion. So I just tried to emulate what everybody else was wearing, what all the cool kids were wearing, what I saw in magazines back in the day. It was a magazine, not social media. So and that's literally what I did for many, many, many years, until it all came on its head when I had my daughter. And everything changed because I lost myself. I lost all the confidence that I thought I had. I got this whole new body overnight, these boobs that came from nowhere that I didn't know what to do with. And I was just like, I don't know what to do with this new baby, this body. I feel like I've lost myself, this version of myself that I thought I knew really well. But more to the point, I didn't lose myself. I was actually finding myself for the first time and really getting to know who I was and what I loved and what I liked on my body. But it transpired that I got diagnosed with postnatal depression, and it was just a really, really dark time, really, really dark time. But when I got better, after a lot of therapy and a lot of work, I was like, there must be other women that feel like this. There must be other women that go through something in their lives that takes them off course and makes them feel like they don't have control anymore.
And you opened the Pandora's box, isn't it?
I opened the Pandora's.
Because I feel that that's probably everyone. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think they're like everyone, and I don't know if men are, I think men are maybe not that much, in a sense of, men go through a lot of stuff as well, but it just feels like men just throw a rag on them, and they don't care that much about how do I look and so on. But in the world of women wear and stuff, like, I feel that's everyone, right? Absolutely. That goes through a chunk, a period of time, and then you kind of lose your identity in terms of fashion and so on. And even if it's age, right?
Oh my god!
All of a sudden you realize I'm 40, but my wardrobe has become a bit like neutral because I'm transitioning to a different state.
It's age, it's menopause, it's having a baby, it's divorce, bereavement. All of these things bring up different things for us, and different chapters in our lives. It's okay for your wardrobe to change with you, not to be a hindrance or hold you back. Because a lot of the times, the amount of clients I've had, and they're like, no, I need to hold on to that because one day I'm going to be a size 10 again. But this one day you were size 10 like 5-6 years ago and you're still not a size 10. So letting that sad pile go is going to only empower you to move forward with the body that you're in now.
And it's so hard, like it, and because I'm kind of like a I would say clothing junkie. Like all of those closets, wardrobes in behind you are just piled with my clothes. And Nikki is telling me like you need to stop buying clothes because we don't have where to place them. And sometimes we do hauls, like letting go hauls.
Nice.
And I find it so difficult to let go of things. She goes like, "Do you still use this polo?" I haven't used it in 6 months, but maybe one day I'm gonna still use it. So I understand that.
Yeah.
Is that a challenge that you have with customers?
100%. The letting go. You've got the memories. You've got the what if I do fit back into it and I need it. There's so many things that are tied up in our clothes. So many emotions. And that's why I tread really carefully with my clients. And I come up with new ways. Like, let's say you've got something. I had a client that had it was a t-shirt. She wore it on her first date with her husband. She's been with her husband for 20 years or something like that. So they're married and everything, but she still had this t-shirt that she wore on their first date. She didn't want to get rid of it. Doesn't fit her anymore. It's just there, still hanging in her wardrobe with the rest of her clothes, just, gathering up dust. And I was like, okay, this doesn't need to be in your wardrobe.
Frame it, put it on the wall if you care about it that much.
Absolutely. Or I said to her, why don't you let somebody else enjoy it? It was like a band tee. It's like, see if your son wants to wear it. Lo and behold, loves it, wears it all the time. And then you can see it transpire. If it is something that you absolutely love, see if it's a fabric, let's say, get it made into a cushion cover. Because then you can enjoy it every day rather than having stuff. Because another point about physical clutter, it's not just physical clutter, it's also mental clutter. Because it's not only wasting your physical space, but it's also wasting your time. Because if you're trying to look for something that you want to wear of a morning and you're going like this with elbows and all the things trying to get to what you actually want, that's taking up most of your time.
Yeah, no, but I have a system now, okay? Like,
he's defending it now.
I have basically the good stuff that I usually go out with, and then the stuff that I wear at home that I just grab whatever it is. So that's a bigger pile. Okay. I'm not doing myself any favors here.
Also, can we just quickly tackle the good stuff? What do you mean by the good stuff?
I mean the stuff that I go out with and use for my content, my podcast and things like that.
Okay.
And then I have stuff that's more comfortable, that is just like stuff for home, like t-shirts and sweatpants and things like that.
So I would then describe that the good stuff is like the stuff that you save for best.
Yeah. I'll give you another example. So, like, for example, we have 2 dogs. Right, like I do not wear this clothes that I usually do the podcast or go out or whatnot that much in the house, or sitting on the couches with all the dog hair and all of that stuff. Where the rest of my clothes can be just piled with dog hair and
No, and I get that to a degree, but I'm always saying that every single day that we're on this side of the planet is our best day and we should dress for it. Because the moments of every day are far greater than your best days where you're saving those clothes for best. And I think that we can all make pockets of moments throughout our week or our days where we can dress our best.
Oh yeah, I make reasons all the time
Yeah.
to dress up, and even if
Yeah.
I go to Asda, I'll be
Oh,
like, put
absolutely.
my nice jeans on, put my watch on, and
Yeah.
dress up and go to the
Ama-
shop. No, I do that all the time.
Amazing.
If I have a period where I'm like too spend too much time in my sweatpants
Yeah.
and baggy t-shirts and so on, I'm just like, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
Like I feel like me dressing up makes me feel good about
Oh,
myself as well.
absolutely, absolutely. And I feel like you're more productive, especially like for the things that you do and I do. I feel like when you're in that space or you're a business owner or anything like that, when you are dressed your best and you feel confident and more open, you are more open to opportunities because you're going to talk to people that you might not have spoken to but when you're not wearing your best. You know, you
Yeah.
could be in Asda and strike a conversation with somebody about this podcast. And if you're wearing your best clothes, you're more likely to be like, oh, yeah, you know, all of this. But you might be like, oh, God, if somebody's seen you when you're not wearing your
Yeah,
best
yeah.
things. And I think that it definitely has an impact on how we show up when you do wear your best.
It is, yeah, and I think that it's a for me it's a two-dimensional thing. On one side is when you when you're showing up into a room dressed a certain way, there's this shallow world that we live in where people notice.
Absolutely.
But the other dimension is like if you go into a room where you're extremely confident, right? And you know, there people that are confident naturally, they can wear a rag on and they're naturally confident, right? And that shows, right? It shows, it captivates people. You get a certain level of acknowledgement
Yeah.
from people, even if you're wearing like a, I don't know, a baggy ripped t-shirt on and so on. But for a lot of us, for me, like me showing up and presenting and being dressed the way that makes me feel confident, helps me present myself as confident and helps those conversations. So I'm not the type of person that will enter a room wherever like all messed up and just woke up
Yeah.
and looking like I'm hangover and be confident and kind of like have amazing conversation. I can't. No, I'm
Yeah.
like, that's why when I go out with, for example, with the dogs
Yeah.
and my baggy stuff, home stuff, I'm like, I don't walk tall and confident
Yeah.
and such. I don't know. It's just me, but
No, and
maybe
I
it's the
see that.
wrong attitude. But
I see that so often. So many people go into that narrative, or that they don't want to be seen because they're lacking confidence because of their weight or whatever. So they'll wear things that will not attract any attention. But I'm like, how are you going to grow your business if you don't want to attract any attention?
yeah,
It's like, you know, there's got to be a ground that you need to set, that you are going to be in a position to be seen and heard, to better yourself and open those doors for opportunity.
and I must say, I'm really glad we're having this conversation because I feel that amongst a lot of the people that I know, friends, acquaintances, people in business partners, communities, and so on, I'm a bit of an outcast, and people don't understand my liking of style and dressing up and so on. So I'm happy we're having this conversation because I don't have it very, very often around style and so on.
And the thing is that people don't have to get it.
Yeah.
I think people don't have to get it, but I think that in a different context, people do have to get it if you're a business owner and it's your brand. I think that that's really, really important. But in terms of like, if you like certain colors or whatever, or textures, or you like to put certain things together, people don't have to get that.
Yeah.
But it's how you carry yourself that is the biggest factor. And like we said about confidence, you are going to feel more confident. And all of that confidence builds up to, well, I don't care what anyone else thinks.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, going back to, so you had this moment where this transitional transition moment that was also quite pivotal for you is that there must be other people that have gone through this stage or are at this stage. How did you get from that thought to deciding to be a personal stylist for this segment?
Yeah, it was, I don't know what happened, because I went from literally rock bottom and then I was like, I'm going to do something about it. I don't know anyone else that does this. I want to do something about it. I want to help those women. And it didn't happen overnight. Believe me, I did a lot of work where I was learning about, first of all, because I really wanted to incorporate the fact that the sustainability factor, because I'd come from a shopping addiction through buying fast fashion to now having this baby that I was bringing into this world, and I don't know what the world was going to look like after I was gone, and I was contributing to that in such a awful way, but I didn't know what the impact was of my actions. So it really stemmed from the knowledge. And I always say it. It's like one of my biggest things that I always say, knowledge is power. Once I started unpicking and unraveling the impacts of fashion, I was like, no, there's so many people I know that don't know this. There's so many people out there that have no idea about this, and I want to, one, educate them to know about it, and two, to empower them to get off that hamster wheel that they've got to be like everybody else. So it came from a place of educating myself, and then with the education came the confidence and came the empowerment of myself, and then I was like, I've got to share it. And that was where it started.
Oh, that's an amazing, inspiring story, because I feel like that's where the good stuff comes from. Like that's where the really good founders and businesses are forged, from self-discovery and wanting to kind of like express that and empower and enable others with the same type of tools. I think that's very effective. But you told me that you started like before the pandemic started. And I feel like you've had this moment and you started doing this business, and I suppose you were excited about it.
Very.
Talk to me about that period when everything started shutting down. How was that for you?
It was tough. I'm not even going to sit here and say that, oh, it was all roses, because it wasn't. It was tough. And also, just going back a little bit, that when I started this, there's nobody in my family that has a business. My mum used to own a hairdresser back in Africa when I was little, but I vaguely remember that. And I had no friends that had businesses. So I was literally going at it from a place of the unknown and total naivety.
That is so. And how did you set up a business? How did you know how to do everything?
I just went online. I was determined, and the thing is, that goes back to what I was saying before, because what I was doing was driven from a place of I want to help. It was purposeful,
Right.
and it was like I'd been through such an ordeal in my life, and I was like, I want to help those women. That was the driver.
Right.
It was driven from such a place of, oh my gosh, I want to do something, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to do that thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, when COVID, my first client on paper, I always say, was in the November. We then went into lockdown in the March.
Oh wow! So literally, like at the end of 2019, you started your officially
Yeah.
you started your business.
Yeah. And then we went into lockdown in the March. And at the time, I was like, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's only just a quick, thing. It's fine. It's fine. Like everyone else thought, probably. And then it transpired that it wasn't going to be fine, that I'm not going to be able to go into clients' wardrobes. At the beginning, I'd set up my businesses that I'm going to go in clients' wardrobes. There was never a thing of going online or anything like that. I was going to be face-to-face, because that's where I believe I thrive. I'm very much of a energy people's person. So I was like, no, it's fine. I'm just going to have to go do it online. So I taught myself. I spoke to so many people. I'd done so many dummy runs of doing my service online. And I was like, right, I'm going to branch it online. And that was it. And with me, I'm very much, it's a suck it and see. I'm just going to give it a go. If it doesn't work, then we'll try again. And I've always been like that, because I'm just like, if I don't try it, I won't know. But equally, what I did was around that whole COVID time, I amped up my learning. I joined so many forums, so many, like, I think there was a time when I was on about 5 different things, whether it was manifesting, money, business, women, founders. There was so many things that I was getting knowledge from around that time that really, really amplified my hunger to know that this is going to work. And there was so many people that I'm still very, very close to now that really helped me have that momentum that this might seem like it's going to go on forever, but it really isn't. I need to be making these foundations now. And that is what I did in that time.
Do you find that from some of these communities, did some of those connections also became customers of you?
Yes. Yeah.
I feel that that's one of the most underrated ways of connecting to people, that become leads and become customers, is like just being part of learning communities.
Yes.
And then, people get to know you and so, you're the person that can help me with my wardrobe.
Yeah.
And they reach out to you.
And also that the people that were in these communities, they were also like entrepreneurs and business owners. So they were too at that time, like, oh, what's the future of my business? So I felt like we were all in it together. And then obviously when the time was right, some of them came back to me and, became clients because we all had a sort of shared a common ground at that time.
Yeah.
But honestly, people really underestimate the power of networking and that connection to actual humans rather than just popping out a post every now and again, making those connections. Honestly, I don't think my business would be here today if I hadn't put myself out there in these networks and communities. Definitely.
But you do have a very specific character trait, which is the try, right? I need to give it a try. I need to try it, right? I can't just, let it fade away and so on.
Yeah.
Because I have acquaintances in my network that had brick and mortar businesses or in-person type of businesses that just closed up.
Yeah.
And I was, with some of them, I was trying to help them and say, well, maybe there's some digital version that you can do now. Look, like Zoom is becoming Zoom
didn't even know about Zoom.
Yeah, and then it got, well, I knew because I was working in this software world, and it was one of the kind of like corporate conference call software that we were using. But just seeing Zoom skyrocket over the pandemic was crazy. But yeah, so I was kind of trying to suggest to people, but very reserved, even when it was making sense. So I've had quite a few interactions where people were very resistant and reserved to trying to potentially do something, move in a pivot in a way that makes sense for the times.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, well, no, it's kind of like you at the beginning, oh, this is going to be short or it's going to fade away, to then eventually, hearing from them or from other places, the other people that, oh, they closed shop because, this has been going on for 2 years and they have run out of runway and so on. And I'm like, but you haven't even tried this other bit.
Yeah.
So I think that's fundamentally a character trait that not everyone has. So you can be sitting and talking to a person and saying, this makes sense for your business. And if they're not the type that would have that character trait to feature to stray away from something that's very unidimensional or safe, they're not going to look at it. They're not going to take it in consideration, even if they think that it's a great idea.
Yeah.
But
It's too out of the. But I think that as a business owner, or even if you're thinking about getting into business, you've got to have some kind of you've got to have a suck it and see attitude. Otherwise, every time that you do something and it fails, then you're like, oh, I'm done. You're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
There's so many things that I've tried in the past that have failed. I tried a membership that failed, but I retweaked it and now I'm sort of doing it differently. So there's just so, because I'm just like, I know that it's not going to be easy. Otherwise, everybody would do it.
Yeah.
But it's a case of I wholeheartedly believe in my vision and what I'm here to do. And for me, if something doesn't succeed, I tweak it and then we try again. That's definitely my motto.
Today, what's the percentage of, split between you going in and to someone's place and spending half a day there and working with their wardrobe versus doing it virtual? Or did you give up after the pandemic, the virtual bit? How does it work now?
No, I still do virtual, but my virtuals are like Tokyo and other places that. So it's people that physically cannot get to me, but majority, or I did have a client actually in Birmingham, but yeah, again, logistics of me going to Birmingham didn't quite work out. So yeah, it just depends, but majority of my clients are face to face.
That makes sense. And especially because I'm the same, I thrive in person. And that's why I decided to do this podcast in person. I've not yet had a single episode on digital Zoom, and I refuse to. I had a couple of potentially decent size, decent influence founders, and I said, no, it has to be in person. I'll come to you with my gear and we'll do it, but not over Zoom.
Yeah. No, I love that. But again, that's confidence in yourself and your ability to deliver an outstanding podcast, because you know what your audience and what your community love to see from you. But you could have pivoted because of their stature and their influence. To bend those rules, but it's about confidence within yourself that you're like, no, this is how I do it.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, a lot of thought leaders, very famous, popular thought leaders, influencers, entrepreneurs, do quite a lot of Zoom podcasts and interviews and so on. So it's like, why? Like, just because to pull on their popularity to get my numbers up. Like, then how do I differentiate from all of the other interviews? Because anyways, their audience, if there's someone that's been doing digital podcasts for the last 2 years, because they're on a kind of like a PR tour, their audience is probably at this point less likely to come and watch my podcast as well, a virtual podcast. So I'm like, I don't see that much benefit from giving up the things that I want to do, the standards that I abide to.
They're your boundaries.
How's your business now? How do you feel like your business has progressed from that, November 2019 first official customer to today? If you would to kind of like describe it in few, let's say, adjectives. That's very hard. But
that is so hard. I don't know. It's been a roller coaster. So many lows, but equally so many highs. And I think that if I knew everything that I know now, I don't know if I would have gone into it as quite as like, I'll just do it because I want to help everyone. Definitely naivety helped. But I wouldn't change it for the world. I absolutely love what I do.
And it does sound like you're quite a resilient individual, to get the business where over the pandemic and try new things and progress the business here. You said that knowing what you know today, you might have not started that lighthearted in a sense, but I'm pretty sure that you would have still gone through the challenges, even if you knew. And I think it really depends on, in that moment when you realize, I've gone through this life experience, and I came to this realization of, who I was in the past.
Yeah.
It's not anymore. I'm someone new. How big of an aha moment it was, because I think that's when this was your first business, right?
Yeah.
First time entrepreneurs, no offense, are very naive, right?
Yes. There's no offense taken, believe me.
But the thing is that as you evolve, and let's say it's your second, third, fourth business, like I've had so many fails. Like I'm a serial failed entrepreneur, I call myself.
Amazing.
You start to realize that you can see a bit the future, right? You can, you mentioned, if I knew back then what I know now, and what with all the stuff, the challenge that I've been, you kind of preempt a bit that, and then it becomes, is this aha moment big enough for me to take on that path, and so on? Like, for example, with I mentioned that I'm starting this film production business, and from a business perspective, I already know what to expect, the challenges and hardships that I'm probably going to experience in the future, especially entering a service business, coming from a subscription based model, which is in my mind a lot easier. But when I was a child, I wanted to be a film director. I was writing scripts, or imagining me shooting and so on. It never happened. It never materialized for me. So I went down this path of, building, becoming technical, being an engineer, building a software business that allows me now to figure out if this aha, which is like, I want to do this big passion of mine, because I know that this has an impact, had an impact in my life, and I want to kind of like create a positive impact for others as well. Does this weigh enough to overcome all of the eye roll moments that I'm going to experience? And the answer was yes. But again, it's, that's what I'm saying. Like, yours was, you were lucky that your aha moment was big enough to keep you on that path. Because when you were starting, I'm sure you had no idea what's going to happen. And especially that you're amongst the unlucky first-time founders starting a business over the pandemic, which is even more devastating to the morale of you as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And I think you're spot on there, that if it wasn't for that aha moment, you need that momentum and the why and all of that, like, definitely needs to be there.
And today, how is it balancing family? You said you have a daughter.
Yes.
How is it balancing family with work? And
to me, the word balance, when it comes to all of that, needs to be put in the bin, because
ban it.
There's no such thing. When one's up, there's got to be one's up, one's down. And I let go of the mum guilt a long time ago, when I started the business, because I can't be at everything, because I'm growing a business. And I can't, there's sometimes when I've said no to things business-wise because she really needed me for something. But that's okay. And I think that I'm really open and transparent that I've got a child. Like, even on my call this morning when she was asking for my availability, and I was like, do you know what? Summer holidays are coming up. So if you want to book in sooner rather than later, because then I need to sort out my childcare, because I'm a mum. And I think that me trying to do it all was getting me nowhere and was filling me with so much guilt and all of the stuff. And I just let go of that now. When one's up, one's down, and that's okay.
I feel that that's a very important lesson there, which is be okay, be comfortable with the fact that you have multiple priorities, multiple responsibilities. Because I think that's one of the mistakes that founders, and I've had people on, like I've had quite a few people on the podcast that are parents and have a family, and I feel that that's one of the things that I've seen quite often as a struggle is doing the whole lot of entrepreneurship and startup and so on, and trying to juggle also family time and so on, rather than say, well, you have to realize that that's happening as well in parallel, and that you can't compare yourself with a single bachelor entrepreneur that's in their early 20s and running around to hack things and make things happen, not sleeping, not having regular hours. You can't compare yourself with that.
No, absolutely. And I think that my journey as a business owner feels more aligned with my values, because I have days where it's just me and my little girl and they're gorgeous. We go to London, we do all these lovely things. But equally, she knows that if I'm working, I'm working. And I think that it's so, so important for her to see that the fact that we do have those nice times, but when mummy's working, she's working.
Family, we touched on that. I have a question that I ask usually founders, and especially I feel that first-time founders is a question that has a lot more weight than if you're a serial entrepreneur. And
should I be worried?
Yes, very, very worried. What's the one thing that you're most proud of in this journey from 2019 up until present day today, related to your founder journey?
Oh, it's a great
See,
question.
I told you that's hard.
It is hard because I do have a few, but I think the thing that I'm most proud of is the fact that I get to not only do what I love, but I get to help other women in less fortunate positions with all the charity work that I do as Fine-Tuned Wardrobe. And for me, that is so powerful, and my skill set, that I can offer my skill set to those vulnerable women that are trying to get back out into work, that haven't got the money to have a stylist, but I get to help them facilitate, what they wear and the confidence and all of that through my charity work is huge. Something that I'm so grateful and proud of.
Would you still do it if would you still do it for free? Let's say it's a very silly question, but I usually throw curveballs like that. Let's say you don't have to worry about survival, right? From a financial perspective.
Yeah.
Would you just do it for free?
100%. If I was financially in a place where I could, live and do all my things, I would 100% do it. Because the thing for me as well is that the reason why my business is called Fine-Tuned Wardrobe and doesn't have my name in it is because I see it's so much bigger than me. I really want to set it up that, I said to you that I go on and sell my clients' clothes, but I want that to be like in a physical bricks and mortar place, that these clothes go, and then women from women's shelters come to that bricks and once a month to have a full-on makeover, have a try on, do all of the things, and get out and feel amazing. So
So, oh wow. Okay, so your expanded vision is
It's huge.
to empower with the same tools people that don't have access
Yeah,
to
to me.
you, or or have the luxury of
Yes.
being able to talk to someone like you.
Yes, because so many people think that having a stylist is just for celebrities and all of those
Oh
things.
yeah.
But the thing is that so many women need this. So many women need to feel amazing in order to then go out and be part of the community and, go for those roles that they might not have gone for. And I think that if I can facilitate something that helps women feel like that, whilst, growing the business and growing the brand, like that would just that is the dream.
I think that that's a great idea. And honestly, I never said that on the podcast to anyone, saying, but people talk a bit more broad and metaphorical around their future and so on. But
Oh no, I've got a very, very clear plan.
for some reason that doesn't surprise me. But that I feel that that's such a great idea, because not only you take that wardrobe, those items from customers that don't need it anymore, and you repurpose it. You're also offering a space where women can, that don't have the access to you, can come in and have a portion of what your customers have,
Yeah.
which is get them to feel good of who they are, while also getting some free stuff,
Yeah, and feel like
because
they're
you don't.
worthy
Yeah,
enough.
exactly.
Feel like they're worthy enough to have this treatment just like any other woman. And I think that after working with the charity that I work for, and seeing the transformation that happens when a woman's given this in, oh my God, it's brought me to tears. It is absolutely profound. And I think that from the charity's point of view, it has to come through it has to come through lots and lots of winding roads and, lots of tick boxes, where I want this to be able to be accessible for all women. You don't just have to be going
Yeah.
to get a job. You could have come from an abusive relationship and you're just trying to find yourself again. It could be anything. That's the women I want to help.
Yeah, true. Charity, I suppose charity with this kind of stuff, it has a lot of rules
yeah.
and stuff. So
Yeah.
basically the stuff that you hand over to charities from your customers have a very narrow segment of where they land, because you have
Yeah.
to be in a certain boxes. tick
Yeah,
certain
no,
boxes.
and they've got to be like interview appropriate clothes that go there, and all of that. But it could just be like Jane just wants to feel good in her clothes because she doesn't have any, because she was, she had to flee her home, that kind of thing.
What else? Well, it seems like you have some few ideas. You said you have everything plotted. You don't have to give all of your plans away. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. I've said too much on that podcast.
No, I've just got really, really big plans, because for me, I'd love to see fine-tuned wardrobe all over. So I want to be lots of me's around, because at the moment it's me and my assistant that do this. But I see it much bigger than just me, definitely.
So there will be more stylists,
Yeah.
more people in your team.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Definitely.
And what do you see that needed in order for that to be achieved? What would make you make that a reality? As in, is it financial? What is it exactly?
I think it's definitely financial, for sure, and growing the brand more. But I think that with all of that, it's exposure, all of that good stuff. So that's why I do a lot of talks. I'm everywhere, which I think you just got to be.
Yeah.
You know, no one's going to know about you in your office at home. So you've got to put yourself out there. And I wholeheartedly believe in what I do, and I know it's going to be a success. It's just going to take maybe a bit more finances for sure.
It does sound like that, and I'm always excited when I have people that have a bigger mission and want to make it happen. And I'm also very happy that with all of the ups and downs, specifically the downs, you kept on your path and you still have that vision and you continue to do so. Because as I mentioned, I'm reiterating at this point, being a first-time founder, not having any business minded individuals around you, like parents, family, and so on.
All of my family said that, what the heck am I doing? They thought it was a terrible idea. Literally, they were like, no one's going to buy that. Why are you doing that? Get a job.
Yeah, I feel that family is the biggest critique and so
Oh
on.
my word.
Sometimes they make sense and you should listen. Sometimes,
I
God.
think if I listened, it wouldn't have it would have been an idea, and that would have been it.
Yeah. That, not having the tools necessary to start something, and then a whole pandemic in between. So yeah, honestly, that's very impressive. Just from that perspective, leaving aside achievements and your brand growing and so on, and you kind of like taking this role of being a more public person and doing PR and so on, but just still going at it since 2019 with all of these obstacles as a first-time founder. You're the type of example that I want people to look at. My segment, I don't know if I mentioned this, but my segment of audience is aspiring founders and entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, people that are at their first business, or they tried a couple of things and failed and decided that it might not be for them.
Yeah.
I want to encourage people that are very early on and are intimidated by this world of business. And honestly, is these kind of examples and stories that I'm quite excited about, because it's like, well, you managed to overcome a bunch of things, hard stuff, like why others shouldn't. I usually end with 3 questions, flask questions, and you know them because I even iterate them on the call. Okay. So, quote that you live by. I know I've been told off by a couple of guests that, live by. I don't live by any quote. Okay, quote that you live by, or quote that you just find yourself using.
So I laughed when I was thinking about this, because I do a word of the year. So every year I have a word that I live by for that year. Last year it was growth, and it definitely played a massive part within my business. There was so many growth moments last year, and this year is trust and believe. And that is it's my mantra. It's what I go by. And I think that for me, having a word of the year rather than a quote is better, because you're going to live it for that year wholeheartedly, rather than a quote sometimes can get a little bit diluted.
Exactly. Yeah.
So for me, it's trust and believe that whatever it is, it's just as it should be, or just as it's.
Trust and believe.
Yeah.
That's also quite strong.
Yeah.
It's like I was talking to one of my team members, and we came up with a not quote, with a statement that I said I'm going to trademark, which is
should you be giving it away now though?
Well, I've already posted on social media.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I forgot it. What the hell? Okay, right. Ignore that. Cut. I'm gonna cut this segment out of
I
here.
want to know what it is.
Is it? Pre- oh yes, yes. I remember.
A few.
Preach, pitch, and pray.
Nice.
As in pray, as in
Yes.
not
No.
pray, as in
Yeah.
that would have
Don't come
a
and get me.
completely different
Yeah.
connotation.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, as in like preach about
The
the
things that
stuff that you
matter.
believe
Yeah.
in and matter. Pitch, pitch yourself, and then pray that it all works out.
Trust and believe. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I love that. I love that. So where am I going to see it? On a T-shirt? Am I going to see it on a banner somewhere?
I've already made quite a few T-shirts.
Have you?
Yeah, I have. I'll send you a link. I have a shop with T-shirts for phrases for founders.
Amazing.
The one that I like the most is when life gives you lemons, pivot.
Nice.
Everyone's like, make lemonade. No, pivot.
That's brilliant.
Right. Book that influenced your life.
Definitely Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Definitely. It was a game changer for me.
When did you read that? Was it after you had your daughter?
No, it was way before, but it didn't really make an impact when I first read it. Then I did read it after my daughter. The first time it was a bit like, oh, this is good. And then I was like, when I had her, then it was like, oh. Because I really do believe after having my daughter, it was like a rebirth. I know that sounds really but it was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I get it. I get this life thing now. Yeah, it was phenomenal for me in terms of there's just so many things that I thought I knew, but I didn't know. And I grew up from a family where we just made ends meet, we just got on with it. But it was the way that the story unraveled and unpicked. It was just, yeah, it was life-changing. I was like, okay. And I think that definitely had an impact on how I then saw the start in the business. Definitely.
Yeah.
Have you read it?
No, I haven't. I felt that I, didn't relate to it at that point. And like you, I might read it now and think,
Yeah.
I don't know about the kids situation, but if I ever, I might read it afterwards and it might make sense.
No,
but there's a lot of I know a lot of people that read it. Sorry to interrupt you. That read it that don't have kids, they don't even have partners, and they're like, oh, there's really good in there. I probably should read it.
Yeah, no, and it's I don't think that it's necessarily, and that's probably why it didn't hit before I had her. Also that I was just not in that headspace. But then I think that when I was looking into getting more into life, as it were, as an adult after having her, I was like, oh yeah, okay. Money, oh wow, okay. I just thought things differently, for sure.
Yeah, I probably should read it. I've been reading a lot of books around the philosophy of good business, business structure, good entrepreneurs, startups, and so on. And then speaking of good, it's a very poor segue, but a good habit that you advocate for.
Smooth. I like it. So a good habit for me, oh my gosh, and I think that it literally saved me, it's exercise. I live by it. Because it literally is not only good for your physical, it's my mental. That's why I do it. There's something about just moving my body that just, if on the days when I don't do it, I can feel a difference within me.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And I think that if you can do something that's going to impact how you feel, whether it's what you wear and then you top it on with a cherry on the top of moving your body. I just think that that's what they should give out as prescriptions, a gym membership.
Yeah.
Rather than pills, but that's a whole nother podcast, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. No, but I deeply agree, and I realize, and the one thing that I tell people is, speaking of changing the way you feel, feeling better, having more energy, being more happy, being less foggy in how you think and so on, in your thinking. I list all of these usually and tell people, would you not invest an hour per day or even 30 minutes per day to have all of that? For me, is I'm at the stage where I'm training as well. I've had a period of maybe 3 months where I wasn't training much. Recently, I've started in the last few weeks to go back properly to the gym, and I already know. I know because I feel rubbish.
Soft. I'm always like, when I haven't been for a couple of
that like my body feels like I'm slouching. I don't feel strong. I don't feel tall. I don't feel confident, and my mornings start very rough. But I'm also at a stage where I've been training for like 6-7 years now, and I know that all of that pain and misery, like people call it, of the training sessions, is just at the beginning for a week, and then it just becomes
absolutely
second nature.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, okay, but I completely agree, and I've a lot of people said that as the habit.
Yeah.
I think maybe 70%. I've had almost
Really?
50 guest founders so far, and probably 70% said exercise. So that's a statement of testament, sorry, of how true this is.
It is
right?
so important. Also, if you've had that many people say it, but my caveat is getting up early. And all those people that say I don't have time, if you get up early, you can make time to make that happen. And I always think that having habit stacking is huge. So if you get up early, you do something, and then you exercise, you go for a run, you do something, it makes it much more achievable.
Oh, 100%. And this is one of the things that, like, I take, vitamin supplements, even like at this point, collagen and a lot of stuff. If I don't go to the gym, I don't take those. I feel that I stack this where I wake up, go do all of my mixes, do all of my vitamins and supplements and so on, and then out the door in the gym, and that's my schedule.
Absolutely. Because, and also, if you're not looking after yourself physically, how on earth are you going to dress that body in the way that you want, or how on earth are you going to do all of these other things? I think that it's got to start from a place of you've got to feed the inside as well as the outside.
Do you find yourself giving that advice quite often to your customers?
Totally. I always say that I'm not just a stylist, I'm also a therapist and a coach, because it's so much bigger than just us. I had a client that was, she wasn't getting in her workouts. She was in a rut and all of those things. But really, we just done her a little timetable, and when she does stuff, and she's now like following it to a T, feels amazing. Her clothes feel better. It's just like, it's a win-win. And I know that fitness helped me massively in my darkest days. And even like when something's not going right within the business, I'm going to go and run it off. Come back with a clearer mind, and then we'll start again. And I think that's where the resilience comes from, because I know where to put that energy.
Yeah. And because you train and you exercise and so on, your a lot more in a better position to kind of energize your customers' mindset around it.
Absolutely, because I'm practicing what I'm preaching.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting there not doing. It's even like things like, trying to educate my clients through what they buy and things. I haven't bought anything from a real shop in over 5 years. Every single thing
Really?
that I'm wearing today has been upcycled or it's from charity shop. Yeah, because I want to show you that it's possible. You can look like this without having an impact on the planet.
Yeah, I mean, you have to live your own words and advice, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That's the only way
live by your values.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. I do have one last question, a very stupid and silly question. You talked about growing up, the neighborhood where you're living with your family. You're the only black family in that neighborhood. Is that still the case for that neighborhood, or things have changed?
No, things have changed. Things have changed. There's more of us, it's fine.
Thank God.
And half of my family don't even live there anymore now. It's only me and one of my sisters. But no, it's definitely changed.
I mean, at least, I mean, the country in general, I wouldn't say a specific area, but I think things have changed quite significantly. I feel that we've went back a few steps with the Brexit and all of these things.
Absolutely. And there is still some villages and towns within where I live that are very predominantly white based.
Yeah.
For sure. But for me, I just think that it's all about education and just seeing everybody as a human being and being kind.
And I have a question for you as well, because we're talking about education and such. We do live in a world, in an era where, everyone has, these things in their pockets, their phones, access to the internet and so on. Do you reckon that helps in, let's say, in some of these areas where, it's still pretty, predominantly white and so on? Because, you're talking about in your childhood, you went to school and you've been called names because, kids there had no idea. They,
Is it an alien? No, it's a human.
Maybe never seen a person of color in person and so on. But I'm hopeful that today, at least, when we have access to the internet and the information is so flowing so easily and so on, that even in, let's say, more remote villages and so on, there's not such a weird thing to be amongst, or to have people amongst you that don't look like you.
Yeah. See, so my thing is that it's all good and well seeing people on media or whatever, but I think it's about having those interactions with people in person.
Very true, yeah.
And getting more people that look like me, that look like you, that look like everybody else to be in those communities, whether it's going to do talks or whatever. And I do my talks everywhere. And I think that and I really want to start doing them more in schools and things like that, just so children know that people like me do things like this or vice versa, because I just think that that's the generation that we need to educate, whether it's sustainability, whether it's empowerment, or just for them to see people like me that are out there as well, and not just on TV or as celebrities.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And it's about the impact, right? Because if you go and going and speaking at a school and talking about how girls and women go through these kind of like periods of changing identity and in themselves and their wardrobes and so on, that's a very impactful mission that you're on, and in general making people as young as possible understanding that anyone can have an impact in the world is very important. So I think you carry that
Yeah.
message and that weight on your shoulders as well.
Yeah. No, and it's funny actually. I was speaking to somebody the other day and I said that whether you like it or not, whether you're just Jane from next door or whoever, Sandra at the school playground, you're an influence to somebody,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not. And I think that being educated in things that matter to you or that for the greater good is so important, because you never know who you're going to be influencing. And I think that as parents or as older generation or whatever, we need to be making that definitely a priority and making sure that we know what we want to see in the world, whether it's, you know, seeing more people like us or whatever it is. I think that it's really important to know that you are of value and there's somebody looking up at you.
Very wise and empowering words. So thank you so much for this entire conversation. Thank you so much for also giving me, in a sense, a platform to talk about my fashion desires and thoughts and so on. It's the first time I'm actually talking about clothing on my podcast.
Oh, I love this.
As so in depth as we had today. So thank you so much for joining me.
No, thank you so much for having me. I've loved it.